news, but not now because we're going to get some buzz behind the buzz. The hashtag Justice Fighter at Attorney Griggs is still buzzing with us, and so we're going to throw out some questions. If you're on Periscope, we can see your answers, and we've been having some Periscope issues today, so I haven't the foggiest idea what's going on. We're going to end up with a recording of that, but Facebook. And you know what? I forgot to grab another device. You have a phone?
Yeah.
Jump on the, keep an eye on the Facebook one so that you can share that for me, my design hat, because something is going on with Periscope. I don't know what it is, but keep an eye on, you probably will see it on your page or on my page. There you go. There you go. Share the Periscope. Let me see what's going on with Periscope. Community Bean is back, and I have my, what am I drinking, Marlene? What am I drinking?
You're doing a cinnamon dolce latte with a little bit of caramel in it and soy milk.
Wow.
That's having
That is nice.
Yeah, it is. I love Facebook.
Great. I'm actually looking at myself and what does that get addicted?
Yeah. Any questions pop in there? Any questions pop in on the Facebook side, then you can just look at your phone.
Okay.
And then we'll see what's going on with Periscope. And Rhonda Huggins, please give us a like and a share. We're getting some notification issues going on Periscope. But we had a chance. Hey, listen, the attorney didn't have to be in court today, so we've got some more time with him, and I wanted to do a couple segments. I want to get some real sound bites because these are things that we can continuously share at dryerbus.com. We like to take you to the source. And you guys recognize the face. You recognize some of the poses. You've seen him on the local news. You've seen him walking in and out of courtrooms. But he is there to represent us. Not only that, he serves in several capacities outside of the courtroom with the NAACP,
yes.
Several organizations. Give a little bit of your resume one more time for us.
Okay, well, I'm Attorney Gerald Griggs. I'm a native of Atlanta, a member of the Georgia Bar. I am currently the Vice President of the NAACP chapter here at the NAACP Atlanta. I'm also the chair of the NAACP Georgia Criminal Justice Committee. I'm a member of the Gate City Bar Association and a member of the DeKalb Lawyers Association, and member of Jackson Memorial Church, and I'm just an all-around Georgia boy.
Now Jackson Memorial just did a shout.
Yes.
Y'all just did a shout out.
Shout
so
out.
are you a native Atlanta?
Born and raised.
I was about to say, if you going to Jackson Memorial,
Woodward Academy alum, Emory alum. So everybody out there who loves Atlanta, I love Atlanta.
Where do you think you get your passion from?
I get my passion both from my mom and my dad. My dad retired from the Postal Service. He was an Army veteran and came back home and opened several businesses and ended up retiring from the Postal Service. And my mom was a 39-year veteran of Atlanta Public Schools.
Wow. Wow. And then, so what did your mom say about you representing the teachers?
She was all for it, and actually a lot of the referrals came from former teachers that either she worked with or that actually taught me. So that's where my passion for APS came, because I am a product of APS, and I was thoroughly disturbed by the thought process that, if you're educated by APS, APS students can't learn. And so, I am a product of Atlanta Public Schools.
There you go. Myself as well, I am an Atlanta native. One of the things that we know of lawyers is based on what we see on television, even television shows, and there were a lot of people that, everywhere you turn, that seems like everybody is a lawyer.
Yes, there's a lot of lawyers out here, but there are not a lot of people that fight for justice. And you need to understand there's a distinct difference.
I was going to say, there's a
distinct difference. You got lawyers and you got justice fighters, and a justice fighter can be more than a lawyer. If you're not active in the community, if you're not giving back, if you're not going on the front lines and fighting systemic issues of judicial imbalances and rights imbalances, then you're not a justice fighter. And that's why I pride myself on being a justice fighter.
Now, so being a justice fighter, and we oftentimes wonder that because we do see, especially being in Atlanta, we're home with civil rights.
Yes.
Is it some of that you have to pull back on when you get into the courtroom?
Yes, sometimes I do have to tone it down because, I am passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about empowering minorities that have been disenfranchised. But you have to understand there's a level of civility in the practice of law. So you can be just as passionate, but, maybe not as abrasive and upfront. But I am really passionate about, empowering people to know their rights and to enforce their rights.
Do you always take trial cases?
Yes,
Okay.
I pride myself on being a trial attorney, a litigator,
Okay.
and I will always be that.
Right.
So I mean, I'm not the type of attorney that sits behind a desk and deals pushing paper. I'm going to be in front of a jury or in front of a decision maker, whether it's a judge or a hearing officer or some type of board that we can actually get rights from.
Right. Got some questions. A lot of people always want to know, what is it with the grand jury? What's happening there with that process, and why is it that we also always seem to fare unfavorably coming out of grand jury situations? What is that process? What's happening?
Well, I mean, the grand jury comes from time memorial from England, and basically it was to make sure that a case had enough evidence to proceed forward. So you present it to a group of the committee, the citizens, to make a determination. It's always done in secret. And so I think at this point, that is an annotated or antiquated system. We need everything that's transparent. I think a lot of politicians run on transparency, and the law needs to be transparent. So the grand jury system is basically a prosecutor presents a case to 24 to 28 citizens of the community to determine if there's enough evidence for the case to proceed to trial. But it's all done in secret. There's no presentation of the defense. There's no opportunity, unless you're a police officer or an elected official, to present any evidence or to give a statement.
Are these average people,
Yeah,
the
they're
same
average
people
citizens.
who get called in for jury duty? Because it seems like they seem to be privy to something that most of us
Well,
don't.
they're supposed to be pulled from the jury pool.
Okay.
And the jury pool is pulled from your you register to vote and your driver's license. So it should be the same people. But the problem with that system is you're only getting one side of the case.
That's the thing about it, because you feel like you always end up asking yourself, do they not see what we see?
No, they don't.
They don't see what we see.
The prosecutor presents his case based on what he has, and the prosecutor's going to present one side. You're
not
going
the defense,
no.
just the prosecutor.
Just the prosecutor
I
side.
want to prosecute this case. Here's what I have.
Here's what I have. Here's what I believe the person did. Here's the reasons why I believe they did it. Do you think that I'm right? And so, I mean, if you hear one side of the story, of course you're going to believe that one side.
Wow.
And so there's always the old saying, prosecute can indict a ham sandwich.
Wow. And here's the other thing too. A lot of times we feel that the person, like people versus OJ. And I don't want to keep bringing up OJ, but it's people versus OJ.
Technically, it's not the people versus OJ.
Okay, but it's not necessarily the victim. It's like the victim in a trial case is technically not necessarily represented.
No.
You don't have an attorney. They're really not. They're prosecuting. Answer me if I'm wrong. They're prosecuting the person based on the fact that they broke a law, not necessarily what happened to you.
Exactly. And what people need to understand, and the district attorney will always say he represents the people. No, he does not represent the people. He represents the state.
Right.
The state has an interest in protecting the laws.
Right.
But if you're a victim, you're supposed to have a voice, but you really don't have an advocate. Now, I always say that I represent the people, one person at a time, because the person on the other side of that, either the people versus or the state versus, is a citizen that is only accused of a crime. You're not convicted, you're not a criminal until 12 citizens who've listened to both sides, gone through all the evidence in a court of law, applied the law to it, and then said, yes, you are convicted. At that point, you become a criminal. So any politician that runs on, he wants to be tough on crime, but is stripping away our fundamental constitutional rights, is not being tough on crime. He's being tough on innocent people. A person is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. A person in jail is not convicted of anything. Now, a person in prison is. And that's the difference, and I think that's the distinction that most people don't understand about our criminal justice system.
Why are we hearing now that there are so many people sitting in jail awaiting due process?
And that's a good question, because, the restraint of liberty is supposed to be an exception. But when somebody's stopped by the police and arrested, we just automatically assume they're guilty. And so we start stripping
You've done something.
You must have done something, the police pulled you over. And we start stripping away their fundamental rights. And that's dangerous as a society, because we in America believe we have the greatest system in the world. And we do, when we use it correctly.
Right.
But when you use
at
it
the same
incorrectly,
time, we are the system in America that has more people in prison.
and that's what happens when you use it incorrectly.
Okay.
We have a systemic problem that most people are not going to trial. Most people are not testing the state's evidence against them. They're just saying, you know, I got the awesome power, let's say here, the state of Georgia against me. There's no way I can win, even though I didn't do it. And that's the purpose of a trial. The trial is to determine whether or not the person did exactly what the state says they did.
Also, that we had a question about why are so many people taking plea deals? You hear it so often now, even in the reality shows. Teresa going off doing a year, her husband going off doing 8 years, people doing their 5-year stints, the 10-year stints. Even the DeKalb County CEO just got released early.
Yeah, 18 months. He did 8 months.
He did 8 months.
People are taking plea deals again, like I said, because they're afraid of the power of the state.
Right.
But the purpose of a trial is to search for the truth.
Right.
And the truth, you know, 50% of the time, the truth is the person didn't do it. You know?
Right.
And so if you waiving that right, and you taking a plea deal because you're afraid, I mean, you just waive your right. You waive your right to appeal. You waive your right to a trial. You waive your right to have the citizens determine whether or not you did something. If you know in your heart of hearts that you didn't do it, you should go to trial. But most people are afraid. The news media makes it seem like it's such a bad thing for people to go to trial. Right. But that's, if you know anything about rights, Brown versus the Board of Education, Dredd versus Scott, you got, I mean, any of your cases, those were trials. Okay? Nothing has ever been accomplished moving this country forward with a plea.
Well, let me ask you this about oh my goodness, what is the source? Because so many of us depend on local news or the newspaper and things like that. How do we really know what's going on in our courts, in the laws, what's being debated here and there? What's the real true source? The
real true source is in that courtroom. And I mean, I know people like to watch dramas. They like to hear a story. If you ever want to get a free story, go down to your local courthouse. There's always a great case going on. It's usually going to be funny. It's usually going to be tragic. It's usually going to be sad.
I've done that as a blogger. I've stayed in on
it's great. And then you get the full scope of what's going on. And it's all free. But if you can't do that, you can always, there are some cases that are being live streamed now. The media is starting to not edit anymore and let you just watch the live stream. So you can watch it. Most of them on YouTube. Type in court cases and you'll see trial after trial, and you'll start to get a sense of what is really going on. And as far as knowing what's going on with the bills, you need to read the proposed legislation. And I know as an attorney, even sometimes I get bored reading, but you can get a sense of what's going on by reading it, and you won't be fooled anymore. You can go to the Secretary of State's website. You can go to the Georgia Senate and the House of Representatives websites and read the legislation. You can go to the governor's website, and then you can start holding these politicians accountable for the rhetoric that's coming out when they're passing bills that are completely the opposite of what they're telling you they're doing.
And now, help me understand the bills. You got the law. You got we all know the schoolhouse rock version of it. But where do I need to really be applying pressure? Because I know that now you've got to get in front of a judge and represent us in our community based on this person that got something passed under the Gold Dome, based on an agenda that might not have had anything to do with it. But in order to get all of his compadres or his cohorts or his counterparts to sign off on it, somebody has slipped in a little something.
Yeah, that's usually pork. Pork,
and now it's a law that I gotta obey, or freedom that I've given up simply because I really want this up here, and this one line item in there has changed our life.
Yes, and I think what people need to understand is every law that's been enacted can be repealed. It's just understanding what in fact you really want, because judges can only apply the law as is written. Lawyers can only argue for and against the law as is written based on the facts. But your city councilmen, your state legislators, and of course your congressmen are the ones that are passing the laws. And if you don't like, let's just say you don't like affirmative action, or you don't like these entitlement programs, which again, most of America is on the entitlement program. But if you don't like them, you have to deal with the individuals that passed them.
Right.
And so I think that's why being politically active, understanding what is actually going on inside of those state houses and your Congress. Yeah. Don't fall for the rhetoric that a politician, I'm pro this, I'm pro that. Go check their voting record. You can go down there. You can see on this day, I voted for this bill, which had to do with that. And here's another thing, and I mean, they talk about this in the debates. You'll be amazed the number of times that a congressman was absent to vote for an important bill.
You will be. I've been at the state capitol. I'm like, okay, this is important. Where are they? And if you watch, even if you watch any of the feeds or the access channels or whatever, you can literally see how empty it is in there. And it's like, whoa, okay.
But yet on the campaign trail, they're telling you, I was on this and I was doing this and I did that. Listen.
Are you thinking about running for office?
Not at this point, because again, I'm a justice fighter. I don't want to be beholden to anybody.
Okay.
I want to make sure that the laws are being enforced fairly. I want to make sure that people know their rights, and I don't want to be in a system where I can only say this. I can't say. At this point, I can be politically correct. I can call it what it is.
Okay.
You got a lot of people that when they run for office,
we do start to see some people, and it's like, wait, the conversation has changed a little bit. I got to ask you, too, we are in an election, and then, of course, come November, one of the things that are on the ballots, at the end of the ballot, is always judges running unopposed.
Oh, yes.
Why is that?
And here's the thing. Now, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for in the presidential election. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for in any mayoral election, but I am going to tell you need to vote in judicial elections and your elections for your district attorney and your solicitor general. Those are the most important elections. Why? Because they determine what happens when you go down to the courthouse. Oh. Listen, if you are dissatisfied with the criminal justice system, that means you're dissatisfied with the set of judges that have been sitting for the last 30 years.
Yes.
Listen,
but why are they running unopposed?
Because no one thinks that you can beat an incumbent, and you definitely can't beat an incumbent judge, because by the time you get to the end of the ballot, people just look and say, I see the eye, let me vote for the eye.
The incumbent, because you've not seen it. They don't even have to bother about campaigning or whatever, the incumbent. Well, because like if you've been in the courtrooms, you're like, I've been in this courtroom.
Exactly.
But other than that, if it's not affecting you and your household, you're like, just go on.
But it is affecting you and your household.
It is.
If you have a family member that's coming in contact with the criminal justice system, 9 times out of 10, that judge that you voting for with the eye is the one that's sending them to prison.
Ooh.
I mean, that's just simple.
Ooh. What does that say? Let's see,
folks. Getting more information. Yeah. So, so you need to understand that the judges are a part of that. So you need to know more about your judges. Yeah. I mean, granted, there are some great judges here in Georgia. I can name about 50.
I was at a networking the other night, turned the corner, and there was a judge, and I can't even tell you what I went through seeing that judge. I'm like, whoa. And I was thankful because he had me change my plea. But I was like, but still, why are we so intimidated by it? Let's talk about that, because we do vote to put these people in place. We do vote for the people who make the laws. But why are we so intimidated by law?
I don't know, because again, America is a democracy. It's a country that was established by laws that the people decided on. So any judge, any police officer, any mayor is elected. Well, the police
I'm going to go closer
appointed,
and read some of these Facebooks. Go ahead.
So you need to understand that you really do have the power. Now, you don't want to fight that on the side of the road. You want to fight it in a courtroom. But if you're dissatisfied, take that opinion to the polls. Make sure you keep notes on these judicial officials, these mayors, these congressmen.
Somebody said the reason why is because it seems outside or out of control. Somebody said Periscope was giving them issues. It looks like Periscope might be fixing now. Okay. Rhonda says you can't beat someone if you don't run against them.
Oh, yes, you can. You can decide to, there's always a write-in. You can write somebody in. Just because it's never been done that a write-in candidate hasn't won doesn't mean it can't be. If Donald Trump can come from television. And
thanks for doing the show. Somebody says.
You're welcome. And take the lead in the Republican race by running with anti-Republican politics.
Anti-Republican.
Someone can step up and assume the role. We just got to stop being like can't. This country was founded on can.
Right.
When the founding fathers decided to break away from England, people said you can't do that. Right. Well, now we're here.
We'll talk about the power of social media. So even if Donald Trump gets the nomination, we can write in.
We can write in whoever you want.
We can get a nice campaign to write in. Okay, I might run for president. I don't know.
If you decide to run, and you can look. The platform of social media, actually, the platform of social media elected the last president.
Exactly.
Remember, he came out of nowhere.
Which I predicted. I predicted it several years before. I said the next president is going to be the one who blogs, who's going to take over the social media platform. But one of the questions we're asking, we're doing an Ask the Lawyer segment. It's an after scope. We had our live scope, great segments, but Gerald Griggs is not in court today, and so we've got him here at 26786 Broad Street. And his hashtag is Justice Fighter. We're doing hashtag Ask a Lawyer. People are jumping from Facebook to Periscope. Facebook, you'll probably drop off. We'll try and keep it reset. But if you have questions, you can post them on the Periscope, and we can actually see them. He's got the Facebook one in case he wants to look on there and ask any questions. I've got questions you guys have asked me, and we talk about it all the time. The one question is why are we so intimidated by law when it's really a process that we really have the opportunity to be the most involved in all of our lives. Let's talk about, we can't get out of here without talking about the first point of contact with the law is us and just the basic neighborhood police.
The neighborhood police. Yeah.
How is it that police, now I feel like this, I leave my house every day, I'm going to where that same police officer putting on the same uniform, patrolling the same streets, we're operating in the same community. How is it that injustice can happen?
Well, because people sit idly by and not do something about it. The same way you can hold a mayor accountable, or you can hold a city councilman accountable, you can hold the local beat officer accountable. They are certified by POST, the Georgia Peace Officers and Standard Commission, which is actually right down the street in Austell.
Wow.
And you can write a complaint. Forget complaining to the local police department, because they're going to cover that up. You can go down to POST and file a complaint, and then the state of Georgia will look into it, and they will hold people accountable if something is wrong. And that's why you have these nice phones that you can record. Right. You can send a video. Right.
Because the first thing you hear on the news, they'll say no formal complaints. The officer had no formal complaints. Is it because people get intimidated again by the process of filing the complaint and they give up?
They give up because I don't want to go down there to the police office and file a complaint. Okay, you don't have to go to the local police. You go to the state.
Okay.
And of course, if you don't want to go to the state, you can go to the federal government. You can go to the Department of Justice that handles civil rights issues. Now, it takes a while for that investigation.
Can you start a Facebook page?
You can start a Facebook page. You can start a YouTube. You can start your own Periscope to talk about it, and then you can broadcast it to the world. The world is opening up. The ability to get information is at a level these days that's been unheard of. And so your voice,
voice has been heard.
Your voice will be heard. You just
but
have to be consistent.
we are seeing more and more laws. Like we were talking about earlier. We can get back to that. Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
That there were major protests all across the country. At the same time, Congress jumped right on this. There were congressional hearings, and the two did not truly intersect. Yes, some went to the White House and met with the president, but the congressional side, the people we voted to put in office to deal with this, the two did not meet. And so that didn't happen.
Go ahead. I think the problem is, especially with movements like Black Lives Matter, you have a certain segment of the community that doesn't know how to, build coalitions with other parts of the community. If Black Lives Matter had a bond with the NAACP or the SCLC or any of these other groups, Georgia Equality, they would have been able to know when these meetings were going forth and be there. Right. So now that the decision
that's coming
makers,
out this world. Let me get it for you.
What's that?
Okay, there's an app with one click and it records and contacts someone if you got stopped.
Yes, there's an app. I can give it to you. It's from the ACLU. It's called, and it records and sends it directly to the ACLU. So if they destroy your phone, it's called Georgia Justice.
Okay, so let's
say by the Georgia ACLU. It's called Mobile Justice Georgia.
It's got record, test, report, witness. Wow.
And it's got your rights. You click on your rights, and it tells you what your rights are.
Wow.
Yeah. Social media, people, the information age is here. If you have one of these in your hand, you can change the course of this world.
Right. Have we seen, because we can't tell based on the headlines and the news stories, like, the news cycle, and we'll always have these things in the news cycle, but has there been a decrease in incidents of all kinds because of social media?
I think so. I think there's become an increase of fear from law enforcement that I am going to end up dealing with issues. It's not going to be able to put the blue wall up anymore because with a hashtag, you know, you can have officers fired. All you got to do is keep sharing it. Keep sharing the video.
We are seeing that more and more now. It's like people are putting, like even the situation where the teacher sent home the student yesterday inappropriately dressed, she quit right away.
Yeah.
Right away.
And the officer in the Sandra Bland case, he's been fired. So
now, what took so long with that situation? Because, and even how they announced how he had been fired. I mean, he had a formal process. I mean, they.
Yes. Well, what it takes is the power structure is not used to the immediacy the information is able to be relayed. They're used to being able to shut it down by killing a news story. Well, you can't just kill a news story with Twitter. You can't just kill a news story with Facebook. You can't just kill a news story with YouTube. You can't just kill a news story with Periscope out there because now people are scoping. People are getting the information out. And now you got smart TVs. So you don't even have to cut on the news anymore. You can cut on your smart television and go on YouTube and watch it over and over and over and over again.
There you go. A lot of community partnerships. We talk about supporting local. And if you want to support what you like here on Dryer Buzz TV, we did put some sponsor information out there. We are looking for some great sponsors. We've been testing this out since about October. We know what direction we want to go. And of course, we want to support Tuya. So we've got some partnerships. We've got sponsorships. We've got title sponsors. Wait till you see what's coming next. And as a matter of fact, the second week, we're also talking about moving to Saturday. So you got to let me know if you'd like to see us on Saturday because we really want to be live in the barbershops and the salons.
That would be nice.
Right. So we're thinking about, we're not thinking about it. We're moving to Saturdays, and then that way we can have a little bit more of a festive environment in the space. Because a lot of you guys are saying, hey, Yolanda, we'd love to come out to the space, and we really want you to enjoy this space. This is a beautiful space. I know you guys only see it on the little box, but we try to give you a tour about it too. Attorney Griggs, when we have got access to some great people, we try to keep him. He's still here. We're doing an Ask a Lawyer segment, so you're going to see some of these segments. We're going to continuously to drop them. Want to talk about rights. We hear about our rights all the time. There are some basic rights that we should know. First point of contact meaning you just got pulled over. You just got stopped. Now you can get pulled over on the sidewalk. Anytime, let's just say a policeman wants to ask you a question. You know, you haven't done anything, but can I talk to you for a minute?
No. And I mean, it's just that simple. And
I
was asked this, you know, and people say, well, you're being rude to the police officer. No, I'm not. I'm enforcing my Fourth Amendment right. You know, a police officer, yes, they can have a voluntary conversation with you if you voluntarily submit to the conversation. And again, if he's stopping you to ask you questions, you know, he's investigating something. Now, you can give him your driver's license or your identification, but anything short of that, that's it. No.
Whoa, wait. If he asks you anything, he's investigating something.
Why else would he stop you? He's stopping you to do an investigatory search. That's a search. You're being stopped. He's gathering evidence against you. You know, and I know people saying, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. So, again, you're not doing anything wrong, but again, he is trying to take away one of your rights.
Okay, let's talk about the house fire we keep seeing in the news. The very first news report of when that house fire, everybody was like, "Ooh, something's not right with that case." And you know, you hear the news use the language foul play. First they said no foul play suspected. We're like, that house burned too fast. The 911, we pulled all this out in the social media conversation. No, you know, the neighbor called and said 4 people were still in the house, meaning that he didn't see the father outside trying to get in the house. And now it's come back to, okay, they're reinvestigating. There is maybe some foul play. There may have been this, that, and the other. But everybody who's watched CSI and all that other kind of stuff, we went right to it. You know, it was like, oh, this is it. When you represent some people that might need some defense. Let's just say
true.
Right.
Some people, yeah.
In a case like that, and it's always that person who they get in front of. Okay, get in front of the news camera. Yes or no?
No, not without your attorney. I mean,
we're talking about the news camera, not even prosecution. Get in front of the news camera. Yes or no?
No, because at the end of the day, it's an investigation, like that suspicious fire. I mean, if the father had have just maintained that he didn't know anything about this and he didn't have anything to say except for he was grieving, you know, it probably would have gone a different way. But he wanted to become a superstar in front of the TV camera. And ladies and gentlemen, 9 times out of 10, people that are spending substantial amount of time in prison is because of what they say.
Right. Because a lot of times the judge...
You have a right to remain silent. Yes. Use it.
Yes. And the judges will tell you that oftentimes the real evidence is because what the person gave you.
What the person said.
What the person said.
The confession, the admission, any statement you made. And 9 times out of 10, it's statements to the press that you made. Because, I'll be honest, reporters know how to ask questions that most prosecutors don't know how to ask. Right. And so if you're not seasoned in how to deal with the media, you don't need to be in the media. Because it's a white hot light. You can incriminate yourself very quickly.